Hello everybody, my name is Dusk and welcome to another episode of Talon's video guide. In this guide, I'm going to go over the first skills in the first 10 levels of the Wizard. The Wizard is a really fun spellcaster, so hope you guys enjoy. At level 1, the Wizard gets its first primary ability. It's called Magic Missile, so you start out with this, and what it does is basically it's a signature spell, so it doesn't cost you mana, and it launches a missile of magic energy causing 110% weapon damage as arcane. And so this ability you're just going to spam early on, and it's a really nice single damage ability, and the runic version is slightly better, so I kind of like this ability. I like to use it a lot, especially when my other abilities are AoE. At level 2, the Wizard gets its first secondary ability. It's called Ray of Frost, and it costs 20 arcane power. And what it does is it projects a beam blast that does 215% weapon damage as cold to the first enemy it hits, and it slows the movement of the enemy by 30% for 3 seconds. And so this is going to be continuous, so you can just hold down the button and right click and be able to just output a good amount of damage. It uses a lot of arcane power, so just keep that in mind. But yeah, this is just like a really higher damage version of Magic Missile. At level 3, the Wizard gets its second primary ability. It's called Shock Pulse. This is kind of like the chain lightning from, or not chain lightning, the lightning from Diablo 2, where the lightning enchanted units just burst out lightning. And what it does is it releases a medium range pulse of 3 unpredictable charges of electricity that deal 105% weapon damage as lightning. And so this is going to be your standard AoE primary ability. It's really hard to aim, so I kind of like the Magic Missile over this, but it does output a lot more damage. At level 4, the Wizard gets its first defense ability. It's called Frost Nova. It has a 12-second cooldown, and it blasts nearby enemies with an explosion of ice that doesn't deal any damage, but it freezes them for 3 seconds. So this is really nice when enemies are closing in on you, and you're not really pushing them away, you're just freezing them so you can run and escape into a different direction. It's also nice if you want to bait them towards you, and then you can clump them up, freeze them, and shoot off a nice AoE ability at them. At level 5, the Wizard gets its second secondary ability. It's called Arcane Orb with a 35 arcane power cost, and this thing does a lot of damage. It moves kind of slowly, so that's one of the problems with it, but it deals 175% weapon damage as arcane to all enemies within 10 yards, and so it's going to be a somewhat of a slow-moving projectile that does high AoE damage, and so this is going to be your primary source of damage output. I'm not a very patient person, so I like using more upfront attacks. I don't really like waiting for the Arcane Orb to actually fly to the enemy, and so I'm not really a fan of this, but it may appeal to you, so feel free to try it out and tell me what you think. At level 6, the Wizard gets its first runic version of Magic Missile, and it's called Charge Blast, and the only difference is it does more damage, so the damage increase, it goes from 110% as arcane to 143% as arcane. If you like Magic Missile, obviously get Charge Blast. It's just a more upgraded version of Magic Missile. At level 7, the Wizard gets its first runic version of Ray of Frost. It's called Numb, and it basically, the only change is that increases the amount that the target movement is slowed from 30% to 60%, and they both last 3 seconds. So if you like Ray of Frost, if you like to use it especially for its slow component, this is going to be a big upgrade. Otherwise, if you want to go for more damage, the Arcane Orb that you get at level 5 is a good choice. At level 8, you get an ability called Diamond Skin. This is going to be a defensive ability, and it's got a 15-second cooldown, so it's fairly short. And what it does is it transforms your skin into diamond. What it actually does is basically make you somewhat invulnerable for 6 seconds. It says it absorbs around 10,000 damage, but I'm not really sure of those numbers. In my testing, at least in the earlier levels, you're basically invulnerable. I don't know if this changes later on, but you're basically invulnerable, so for 6 seconds. It's got a 15-second cooldown, and it doesn't really cost any arcane energy, which is really nice. So use this as much as you can. It's really fun to use this with some other abilities that I'll talk about later on. At level 9, the Wizard gets 2 abilities. The first one is going to be Wave of Force. It's going to be your first Force ability, and it's going to cost 25 arcane power with a 15-second cooldown. And what it does is it's going to be a massive AoE thing that slows the movement of everything around you, has a really big range, and deals 200% weapon damage physical. And so this is going to be really, really useful. This is like your de facto AoE ability that you're going to use, and it's going to be able to kill everything around you with 200% weapon damage. The only drawback is a long cooldown, of course, and so use it sparingly, but use it a lot as it is a very powerful ability. Also at level 9, you get your first runic version of Shock Pulse. It's called Explosive Bolts. And the only difference is when your lightning hits someone and it kills them, they deal 70% weapon damage as lightning to every enemy within 10 yards. And so if you kill them, you're going to explode them, which do additional damage. It's basically just more damage onto your Shock Pulse. And if you like using Shock Pulse, I highly recommend this. Otherwise, if you like to use a more single target ability, Charge Blast is the way to go. At level 10, you get your 2 passives. The first one is going to be called Blur, and what it does is it decreases melee damage taken by 20%, and this is your standard decreased damage taken. And the second one is called Power Hungry. You gain 30 arcane energy for every health globe you're on, and personally I like Blur a lot better. Damage reduction is always nice. Getting that 13 arcane energy is useful, but the health globes, they drop kind of randomly, and so you're not going to be able to get that energy when you need it. It's just kind of like a boost when you do get it. You can't really count on it. And so I do prefer Blur. If you guys get, items that make the health globes drop more often or give you more health, by all means go ahead and get Power Hungry, especially if you're going to use arcane heavy costing abilities. Anyway, though, this is going to be the first 10 abilities of the wizard. Obviously, I'm going to go through all 60. So if you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to leave it in the section below. Also, for some of the abilities, we don't have clips of them. I apologize for this. We'll update it later on, though. My name is Dusk, and I'll see you guys later.